What are my rights?
Illegal. What should I do?
What should I do? What should I do?
What should I do?
What are my rights? What are my rights?
What are my rights?
A legal course of action.
A legal course of action.
A legal course of action.
A legal Morse of action.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to a brand new episode of Legal Morse of Action. This is Patricio, and as always, I'm joined by attorney Erin Morse. Fireworks. How you doing, Erin?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm alive and breathing.
Yeah.
You know, rough night last night.
I bet it was.
Yeah, but it was fun.
Too old for that.
No, never too old. No, I'm kidding.
Oh.
No, yeah, no. I take that back 100%. But wow, I just had a brain fart on that one. Erin, introduce our guest as we start off the latest episode of Legal Morse of Action.
Well, why don't we let you introduce yourself and tell us what you do? So that'll be the best way.
Thank you. So my name is Deyna Gomez. I'm an emotional wellness coach. I specialize in anxiety and emotional mastery. My company is Sage and Harmony Holistic Coaching here in Orlando.
Okay. All right. So that's pretty exciting.
So when you, Erin, you literally sent me a screenshot of all her information, and you were like, "I want her on the show."
Yeah.
Like, what was your guys' interaction that day?
Well, we had just talked about basically the services that her company offers and what they could offer to people. And I thought about how that probably is something that could be very helpful to my clients for their emotional well-being. I think that that's something that my clients really need in going through divorce and custody type of situations. So that really piqued my interest. And I thought maybe making a show and being able to do some question and answers on it.
And like that's the one thing that kind of gets overlooked during any court proceeding is mental health.
Yeah. And it shouldn't, right? Because it really does affect your ability to even be effective when coming into the courtroom. That's a big one that's important for me.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's where my job is, right? That's where I perform my surgeries is in a courtroom.
Because sometimes like you being the attorney, I mean, that's your role into the case. Like, I'm sorry to say, like sometimes you can't play. I mean, you can't play the therapist.
No, I'm not a therapist and I'm not qualified to do that. So I oftentimes am trying to guide my clients into, you know, some type of therapeutic or emotional treatment because, you know, when a client has incredible emotional responses, I mean, one such example, we have a client who, you know, they have a very specific and technical type of case. And what they wanted was to like have their mom come testify. And I'm like, was your mom there? Because this hearing you're about to have is on like a specific event. Was she there? No, but she'll testify that I'm like a good person and this shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Like, what judge thinks that your mom won't testify that way? Do you think the judge is going to believe you?
Right.
Like,
And like this is where I want to kind of shed light on in regards to like the way the mind is working during a family proceeding or any discord proceeding itself.
also, at the end of that conversation, he didn't understand or agree with me. I was like, sure, bring her. Also, you know, begging me to give. I have a picture that I took of not the incident.
Oh,
right. That we're going to court on, not the incident. And I'm like, what?
Facebook users saying my mother won't, LOL.
So, you know, what I was trying to tell him is, you know, like that's not going to persuade the judge and it doesn't reference back to the incident.
Right.
So what the hell? And so he's not taking my advice because he's so emotionally charged. So he's sending me evidence that, you know, I'm going to submit to the court and the judge is going to be like, I don't care.
Right. What does this have to do?
So Deyna, like, what do you like? What goes through someone's mind in like situation like that? Like
Yeah.
taking that scenario right there and giving like your opinion on it.
Yeah. So our minds are basically wired, especially the anxiety part of it, is just basically wired for protection.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the state that he's in. Like, I just need to protect myself. And it doesn't have to be a logical solution,
doesn't.
right, from the side of it. But he's just in that state of, I need to try to protect myself in any way that I can. Here's options. And again, because it's not necessarily, he doesn't understand the legal part of it, but
Mhm.
he just is looking for any way that's going to feel comfortable for him. Do you know what I mean? Like, just in a sense of what's going to feel, where I'm going to feel safe in the realm of, and it's mom, of course, because mom is going to tell them, let them know that I'm a good guy, I'm a good person,
I'm like,
so.
oh my God. It was like painful. And it just, it's also one of those things where he isn't listening. So when I gave him the advice, he didn't accept it. So that's a little frustrating,
Mhm.
because again, he has this emotional barrier to
And
being able to absorb that advice.
and his line of thought is restricting you from performing your duties as the attorney on
Right,
the case.
because if he's not listening to me because he's got this emotional barrier, he's not going to take my advice on what he needs to testify to.
Mhm.
So he's going to go to court and use his own script, right?
Right, yeah.
And the problem is a lot of persons, when they're on the stand, they don't answer the question that was asked. They tell the story they want to tell because they're just emotionally charged, and it means that I can't do the best job for them. They didn't listen to me and what I had to say, and then they're like, I have a picture
So
of
So
Yeah.
I kind of want to deep dive in what you said right there, and Dana, in regards to like building that reality.
Yeah.
That like everything else, everyone else is like, no, that's not what's going on.
Right.
Like, why do you see it like that? Like, why does an individual actually like build themselves, whether it's a story or a lie or like just an augmented reality to situations like that?
Again, it's just a sense of protection. It's what, if I do this, then I also control, so I have more control of the situation. If this person is in just a situation where he's not feeling he has any control over what the judge is going to think, what the other side is going to happen. So this is my little sphere of control that I can possibly have. And again, for everybody on the outside looking in, you're just like, that's probably not a good idea. None of this makes any sense. They're like, oh, well, wait a minute. So it's really also reframing that whole experience for him, so that again, he's not so emotionally charged.
Yeah.
No, and also like not only individuals, whether it's a petitioner or respondent, but a lot of times the mental health of the children are affected during a family proceeding.
Yeah.
And Erin, like, I mean, you're a key witness on that one. Like, what have been like some experiences where you've seen the child's mental health come into question or being threatened during proceedings like this?
Well, in every proceeding where the parents are fighting, 100% of them, 100% of them,
100% of them?
your children are affected,
Wow.
whether they see it or not.
Right.
Okay. So they know that the two of you are fighting, whether you say so or not.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to figure out how to navigate those roads. They don't know if it's their fault. They don't know if one parent is good or bad, and they just don't know how to navigate this. They don't have the emotional maturity to do so. And based on how their parents are acting, nobody's going to help guide them.
Dang.
Right.
So that's a big problem with these situations and scenarios. So it kind of circles back to, if you're not emotionally healthy, you can't guide your children in an emotionally healthy way. So and there's been a couple of times where I've suggested to people like, hey, you need to consider getting some kind of therapeutic intervention, therapy, counseling, what have you. And they go, I'm not a weak person.
And we were actually talking about this before.
The stereotype
Yeah.
of, the stereotype.
That's actually, in my opinion, a sign of weakness, right?
Yeah.
You're too weak to ask for help.
The one thing like we were talking about before we were recording, that back in the day, like, whether it's, like, because I'm a kid from the 90s, we didn't talk about, mental health. We didn't talk about, how are you feeling? I was always told, suppress it, put it away. You can't act like this because you're a man.
Mhm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about this in regards to
Yeah.
like in this day and age, like it's becoming more aware and it's more acceptable to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I wanted to dive in on that in regards to like the evolution of mental health in this country over the past few years. Like, what's your take on this?
So, I mean, I experienced the same thing. I mean, even as a girl growing up, you just go to your room. We don't talk about it. Nobody wants to deal with the feelings.
Right.
Just, go outside and play, or just go somewhere else.
Yeah, I'll give you
Because
something to cry about.
yeah, I'll give you something to cry about. Well, that's also because, our parents didn't have the emotional maturity to deal with the feelings. And, it was just, it's a cycle, it's a pattern. You just keep going and going until somebody's like, well, wait a minute, we can't continue to do that. Right. So now, yeah, mental health is becoming more aware, because now our generation is like, well, wait a second. That sucked.
Yeah,
growing up
this
like
isn't
that.
working.
Right. What are we gonna do? And like I was telling you, my youngest client is 8 years old. And kudos to mom, right? For saying, I know that I need help. I know that my child needs some help, you know, coaching or therapy or a combination of the two. So I work with therapists and counselors during, for the programs, just so we can, it takes a village, so we can just kind of, let the child know that it's okay to have the emotions. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry.
What's the difference between coaching and therapy?
Right. So coaching is more goal oriented than therapy. So therapy, one can see their therapist or several therapists for 15, 20, 30 years, whereas coaching, you have a very specific goal that you create with the coach in the beginning, and then you work towards that goal for a specific amount of time, 16 weeks, 20 weeks, or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm fixing it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So what are some of the services that you offer?
So I do anxiety coaching, obviously.
What does that mean? What do you do with anxiety coaching?
So my approach to anxiety coaching is a little bit different than what my clients are used to. So I don't believe in stacking fear on top of fear. So I teach my clients how to basically embrace it. Our brains are wired for anxiety, to learn how to protect themselves. We do some root cause of how we got there, and just learning how to navigate your emotions and be very self-aware. So we do a lot of work with the unconscious mind, and just kind of learning how to, this is what I'm feeling. This is where my body, I'm feeling it, a very holistic approach, mind, body, spirit. So then that way they have the awareness of, yes, I'm having an emotion. It's okay for me to have this emotion, because a lot of times, clients will come to me and they're wearing that label of I am anxiety. And so they wear that label their entire life, or I am depression. And that's who they are. So the unconscious mind is going to support that identity. But aside from that, I mean, once they can figure out, okay, well, my name is Deyna. I have anxiety as a symptom when XYZ happens to me, but I also know I have these tools now to control it. Because otherwise if I have the fear of the anxiety symptoms, well, when I feel it coming on, what happens? You start shutting down, right? You go into this full-blown panic attack. And so then you're fearing whatever it was on top of the feeling of anxiety, right? So again, that's my approach as far as the anxiety coaching, is just basically, teaching my clients to embrace it and use it as your superpower, because you can. I did.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but I mean, it works a lot better than trying to not feel.
Well, yeah, you can't not feel.
Right?
Those feelings are coming. And
Yeah.
I think an important part that not a lot of people have the ability to have the foresight, especially when they're in these feelings, is that, those feelings will go away. They're temporary.
Yeah.
Or, sometimes the other side of it is that the feeling of happiness is also temporary, and there isn't a real goal that you be happy all of the time. It's just not how it works. So it's okay to kind of lean into, if you're feeling, a lot of times there's a lot of grief that comes with having this separation, and how you're going to deal with your finances and children, is just lean into that grief and accept and forgive yourself for feeling that way, that those feelings are okay and valid and normal, and you can live with them because they're a part of you, not all of you. And that you will be happy again, and some days you will be absolutely neutral, and all of those things are an okay on the spectrum of human emotion, that all of those things fit into you, and not to let them guide you exclusively. Because I think sometimes this feeling of like happiness or that like dopamine, whatever it gets.
Yeah.
Right? So it can kind of be like a high that people chase.
Right.
Right. And it results in a lot of like poor decision making.
Right.
But I wasn't happy. Well,
Right.
you're not going to always be
Yeah.
happy. Right. Or, a lot of people that comes with certain jobs or having to do certain things. And I'm like, well, no one's going to pay you to Netflix and chill.
Right.
So you're going to have to do a job that isn't,
Yeah.
fun. Like some things aren't fun, and that's
Yeah.
also okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and I get that a lot, right? So when we go over, okay, so what's your goal for the program? They say, well, I just want to be happy. And I said, well, I can tell you a joke and make you happy. And then I can curse you out and make you angry. And then I can tell you a really sad story and then make you sad.
Right.
Like,
We could have cake and you can be happy.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole spectrum there, but so that's not our goal. So
We have cake?
I would have brought cake if that was the case.
No, right? That's the point. So now are you sad?
Yeah,
now
you
I'm
sad
sad.
now?
Now I'm sad that there's no cake.
Yeah.
But you just said something real quick. I'm trying to go back to my thought. I should be writing this stuff down. Oh my goodness. The unconscious
Unconscious mind.
unconscious mind. Can you describe that? Because you had said it earlier, and I don't know what that is.
Sure. So there's different parts in our brain. So the part of the brain that processes the anxiety is called the amygdala, and that's basically where your fight, flight, or freeze response is. And so what happens is with the anxiety, once an experience happens, once you have an experience, the emotion along with that experience gets stored as a memory in that part of the brain.
Oh.
And so the brain, what it does is that it goes on high alert. Like, so for example, with a dog, right? If a dog bites you. So now every time you see a dog, your brain is, whether it's a big dog, a little dog, or whatever, your brain is going to be on high alert to, I have to protect myself now because I remember what happened the last time that a dog bit me. Now it could have been when you were really small. Oh no.
Yeah.
Did I just trigger you?
You did. You totally did.
My bad. Maybe we should have a session after. I'm so sorry. But just like that. So every time, or even somebody talks about it, like there's that point of, so your mind is going to go into, I need to protect me from this because we don't remember what happened last time. We don't want it to happen again.
Yeah.
So I have to protect you from the situation, and it goes on high alert. And so it's kind of like a program just kind of running in the background all the time. And you become hypersensitive to your surroundings with that.
Where from up north are you?
Brooklyn.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's not Brooklyn. It came out.
Came out a little bit. I mean, no, I mean, Connecticut, Chicago,
Massachusetts.
Sorry,
Okay.
my bad. I don't know why I thought
She's like,
Connecticut.
we're right.
I don't either.
Oh man. So, what got you into this field? Because it's a difficult field, and it's not for everyone to be at. So, like, what got you into this?
My
field?
own anxiety.
Your own anxiety. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm a trauma survivor. I've gone through some things, and anxiety was just part of it. And that, like I was talking about, being hypersensitive to my environments, to relationships, being a domestic violence survivor. That was just a lot that came in. And being in therapy, it was like, well, here, take this medication. And I'm like, I don't feel good when I'm on medication. I don't feel anything, and I don't like not feeling. So that to me didn't work. And I was in the medical field at the time. So I spent 24 years in the medical field. So medical terminology was like a second language to me. So, I could start like studying and more about the unconscious mind. So I had to approach it from a very clinical standpoint. And I went to a nonviolent communication group one time. I was invited. And everything just kind of switched for me and was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. My core need of feeling safe, my definition of love, all of those things, I wasn't looking at. And no one told me in therapy to question or to look at any of these things. So that's why at that point, it was just like, okay, I mean, if this is happening in my mind, then why don't I have control over this? I think I should have control over it. So let me go in and deep dive into this. I mean, do I still have anxiety? Of course I'm going to, but now I'm more aware of it. I know to breathe. I know to count. I know to, what I mean? Have my mental grounding, my meditations. So I don't fear my anxiety anymore.
You in a sense embrace it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, because it's part of me. If I continue to push away parts of me, then I'm disconnected with certain parts of myself. But I mean, I'm embracing my darker sides, you know, I mean, I'm loving it. That's the parts that need the light, is where it's dark.
The topic at hand when it comes to mental health during court proceedings, like I'm sure you have patients that are going through, whether it's a divorce or some sort of legal proceeding. Like, what's like the one common ground that you see with patients that are going through a family proceeding?
Most of the time, it's they were in a domestic violence situation. They didn't even realize it, or they did realize it and they didn't know how to get out of it. So at that point, it's just kind of helping them rebuild their self-esteem, learning to just figure out what the next step is, and having them have the confidence to do that.
Yeah, there's some difficulty with the interplay with domestic violence.
Yeah.
Because the court has a lot of barriers or stopgaps in being able to deal with it, and coming from an emotional and psychological side, not every wrong has a legal remedy.
Right.
So that's a big problem that I can come across with my own clients. Like, well, what about the fact that, my wife turned off my cell phone?
Right.
The fuck about it? You're sad?
Right.
Like, well, and that's the problem, is I'm a lawyer. So I'm like, I don't file a motion for
Emotions.
husband's feelings were hurt when she turned off the phone.
Right.
I'm like, you earn triple her income.
Mm.
I understand that she provided for the phones, right? Because that was just her role. I'm like, what do you want me to tell the court? What do you want me to say to them?
Right.
Isn't it mean of her? Tell her she's mean, Your Honor. Like, I'm like, stop. I can't, and then again, that's where these like emotional and they're really like, it becomes expensive. It's an expensive emotional, dump into your lawyer. And then your lawyer's going to respond to you like, I don't give a shit.
Right.
Because legally, I'm not helping you with your case if I do that. So even if I did file that motion and maybe something happened, right? Your wife was required to pay you back 2 months of your cell phone bill. What's that going to be? $300 maybe?
Right.
Was that fucking worth it?
Yeah.
It cost you $1,500 for me to do all that.
Right. Yeah. But then in their mind, there's like, well, there's that win. I got to win.
Yeah, well, and it comes from a place of desiring punishment,
Sure.
right? So it's there again. It's this emotionally charged, illogical thing. So
Control.
I generally do not let that inspire my work.
Right.
So I'm like, shut up. And then if you want someone to speak to you for your emotions, we know where to hand you.
Yeah,
but that's
yeah,
not
yeah.
my job.
And a lot of the times, as a paralegal, we tend to become like the shoulder for a lot of clients, because they're going through this procedure, they're going through all the stress and anxiety, and they want to talk to somebody. But here's a crazy thing, guys. I'm not a licensed physician. I am not a therapist. I'm a nice guy.
Right.
I will listen to you. I'll hold your hand for a second, but I can't direct you or guide you or help you unravel the emotions that you're going through. And here's the one thing: it's okay. You put out a post the other day that I loved, and we got great response on it. Where like, it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
I need you to.
You need to ask for help. There's nothing wrong with, hey, I need to talk to someone who knows how the mind works, because right now my mind isn't working.
Right.
Also, I firmly believe that everyone going through this process needs to speak to a therapist or get some type of emotional coaching. All of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's never easy. This is something no one ever expected to go through. And it's a lot of very big changes in your life, and it's a high financial cost, and there's a lot of emotions tied to finances.
Yep.
So, you got to do something with those feelings, and calling your lawyer so that I insult you on the other end is not it. That ain't it. That ain't it.
I mean, even when I went through my divorce, the first thing I did was I put my older two in counseling, and my son was, he was showing the anger and frustration of everything, and I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, at that time, I didn't know how to deal with them. It was, years ago, and it was just like, I don't know what to do, but I'm hoping that somebody can. And luckily, we ended up with a wonderful male therapist who, really, really helped. And so, because I was like, I'm not qualified to help you through this. Like, I don't know. I don't
While
even know
you're
what
going
I'm doing.
through it, you're not.
You know, and I was still kind of trying to figure out
Yeah, how do you
everything
be,
and anything at that
yeah,
point.
the shoulder and deal with it yourself?
Yeah.
You can't,
Yeah.
right? So we're, you know,
but you know, I grew up with, like he did, that taboo of you don't talk about your feelings. You know, you
Yeah.
don't deal with your feelings. Just go somewhere.
my mom was not like that. So when I was younger and she went through a divorce, she put us in therapy, both my brother and I. So that was a very natural response of hers. So my brother and I learned fairly young, how to manage our emotions. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so it's a little bit different. So when people come to me and they say things like, I immediately know what is your emotional
Yeah.
response. I'm
Yeah,
like,
she's-
that's an emotional response. I'm
She's
like,
so good. At
I'm
that.
like, that is not rooted in logic, and that is not rooted in an actual problem you need a solution to. Because if you can't give me what the solution is, you don't have a real problem.
Right.
You have a
Erin's
complaint.
my emotional support.
I love that.
It is because a problem, you know, you discussing a problem without offering or requesting a solution is complaining.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not the complaint box. I'm not. Why don't you write
or
that
a
down?
very
in your notebook?
expensive complaint box.
No. I really, I mean, write it down on a post-it note and put it in your own pocket. I don't care. Like I can't. I can't. I can't accomplish figuring out legally what's in the best interest of your minor children, unwinding your entire financial life and property and retirement accounts and all of that, and how you feel about her turning off your cell phone.
I feel like we probably need to kind of sit on that.
I know who it is. Who I'm thinking about. I keep telling him to get into therapy. He's not listening.
Well, tell him coaching is a lot less aggressive than therapy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the nice part about coaching too, right? So it kind of breaks that stigma a little bit between coaching and therapy.
Yeah. Because coaching is, you know, definitely has a different connotation. Yeah.
So we're at the point right now where we get questions from the listeners. We get questions via email, and sometimes we love to throw the questions out at the person who's, you know, guest starring on the show and see, you know, what would be your take on the situation? What would be like your recommendation? I mind you, you're not a legal professional, but this is just your thought. And then, you know, we got Erin coming in with the proper response. So the first one is, I just found out that my wife is cheating on me, but furthermore, she was taking our 4-year-old son with her on her dates with her lover. Can I use this and try to get majority custody?
What do you think?
I think that trying to use the child and that is really going to just hurt, you know, on both ends. As far as when there's cheating involved, that should be something that's in counseling. So how did we get there? Why is that even a
thing?
A thing? Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, because you know, when one person is unfaithful, there's a lot of times there's a disconnect there. So how did we get to that? So, I mean, that would be the first question that I ask as far as that.
So from a legal standpoint, my answer is going to be, were they having actual sex in front of the children? And why didn't you call DCF before you called me? Because if that's not what's happening, it doesn't matter that much, right? I get that you don't like it. And your desire to get retribution for this thing comes from you being hurt. So this is your emotional response to, you know, what's going on, right? You emotionally want to punish her because this happened. That is what you, and it happens every time. I'm like, you want to punish her because no, I don't. Really? You think you should?
Yeah. You
think you should take your child away from their mother?
Yeah.
You think leaving your child motherless is the better answer,
right?
Because she had an affair. That's the reason she had an affair. Therefore, my child should have no mother.
Right.
That's nasty.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying, just kind of like using that child as that
pawn.
Yeah.
Jenny Benny is coming in saying hurt feelings is not a cause of action.
It's not.
That is my new nickname for her from here forward. I'm sorry, Jenny Benny. That is your new nickname.
I call her Genjamin.
Genjamin. Next question coming in. Where was it? Here we go. How do I divorce from a husband that has been deported and whereabouts are unknown?
I mean, we do an affidavit of diligence trust. I'm not even going to make her answer.
Right.
That one's like
I
a
don't know.
blue question. Her answer to that question is call a lawyer who
Right.
would know, right?
I know a great lawyer.
Yeah.
407-900-7451.
So, you'd have to do an affidavit of diligence search, and especially if it's only on the topic of getting divorced, it's going to be a bit easier to accomplish. When we can't find the person against whom you have custody issues, the court does require that you go through a lot more work to make sure you find them, right? You're taking away a right of theirs, right? If you're trying to get we don't use the phrase full custody, but for the purpose of this conversation, if you're trying to get full custody or terminate parental rights, you have to do a lot of work, and the court's going to want to know that you were very diligent, and you need to prove that.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Mm.
So,
All right. So this
you'll
one,
get your divorce. Yeah. That's the sum
That's
of any question is like, what about if, can I get divorced if? You'll get your divorce.
Yeah.
You'll get your divorce.
can my ex-wife ask for her engagement ring back 2 years after finalizing the divorce?
It actually is hers. And once you gave it to her and the marriage happened, it's her premarital property. So she could sue you for it in civil court. She doesn't even have to go through the divorce court.
I love how just out of nowhere, Jenny Benny just came in and just said nope.
Yeah. So yeah, you can't. It's actually a promise to marry. So it's consideration for a contract,
Oh,
an engagement ring.
I'm learning so much.
I know.
Yeah. So once she performs,
Things that could have been brought to my attention at EDC.
yeah, a lot of reasons.
A lot of
We
reasons.
said no. Okay. Once there was, a proposal, the consideration for that was what they asked you, right? That was their offer.
Yeah.
And the consideration with that offer was the ring. You accepted by putting the ring on, and then the performance of the contract was the marriage.
We didn't get to the contract signing.
Wow. Right. So if she fails to perform, right? You don't get married, the ring goes back.
Oh.
Yeah, he's entitled to have the ring back.
Dang. I just don't want it.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So you saw that, like that was my kind of like flipped it right there, but
Yeah, it's not worth it, right?
not worth it at all. Going into the next one. My son's father put his girlfriend on my son's school account information as the legal mother. Can he do that?
Your son?
My son's father put his girlfriend on my son's school account information as the legal mother. Can he do that?
First of all, the person who's asking this question knows the answer to this question.
What is the answer?
No, is it their mother? No.
So, like, what would be like the course of action at that point?
Go to the school and go, I'm their mother. Show a birth certificate or your divorce decree. You don't need to go fight with your ex. You don't need to do that because that didn't help anything. He's not going to be like, oh, you're right. I'm wrong. Y'all got divorced.
And he was just probably doing it just to get a reaction out of you anyway, which is
or he's a dumbass.
well, yeah, there's that clearly. Yeah.
And you know what? The reasoning behind why he does it. Here's another thing that I would like my clients not to place focus on. I've had a couple of clients in the past who have this just like pointed desire to know why they're doing it. I'm like, stop wondering what that is. This isn't espionage. This isn't House of Cards. Okay. It's a fucking divorce.
It's a great show.
Right? It's a divorce.
Yeah.
So why don't you stop with the like motivation? You don't need to prove motivation
Yeah.
in your divorce. Okay. Mens rea is not a necessary element of your divorce. So what do you care? What do you care? Why don't you take what they're saying for face value
Mm-hmm.
and act on that? If they say they want, majority time sharing, you need to prepare for why they shouldn't get it. That's it. You need to focus on what you need to do.
Yeah, I can see that.
Who cares why?
Yeah.
Why would you say that? I don't. What?
He's doing it because he's only doing it just to hurt me or just to get back to me. And then there's a whole.
Yeah, this
side
one
of
too,
that.
right? He
Yeah.
doesn't actually want the child.
Yeah.
He just wants to get back at me.
Right.
He just wants to have control over
Right.
me.
Yeah.
Maybe, but since it's a valid cause of action that he can have time sharing and try to reduce his child support and be able to make decisions on the child, the court's not going to be like, well, what's your true motivation? They don't care. Right.
Yeah.
What's the line of thought in that situation?
Yeah, so I mean, at that point, it's a power struggle, right? So it's one person wanting to have control, the other person trying to figure out where I stand in that.
How do I get the control back?
Yeah.
I want to even control what they're thinking. So
Right.
if I know it, I can control it.
Yep.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what it is. And sometimes, I don't always go that deep with my clients, but as soon as they do it, I'm immediately like, I'm
shutting it down.
I'm triggered, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I have to shut it down by being like, who cares? Like, legally not a cause of action.
Right.
But what I would like to do is be like, are you this controlling? Is this what you are? Because if you think that asking these kind of questions to me, thinking that you're going to have control over how I act in this case,
Right.
that's not going to happen either. I don't care why they're doing it. I don't care. I'm not going to ask.
Yeah.
I'm not going to even try to find out. I'm going to make sure you get the best result you can. And what's in the best interest of your children, that's my job. Make sure that the best outcome happens. I don't care about her thoughts. I will never care about her thoughts ever. I promise.
Right.
I promise. Okay? It's never crossed my mind,
I'll
Don't
sleep
care.
just fine tonight.
Yeah. So you should feel the same.
Right.
Next one coming in. Can my ex-husband sign up for expensive daycare or activities I can't afford for the kids?
I mean, first of all, we're going to have to look at what your paperwork is.
Mhm.
But if you really can't afford it, the thing that you should do is have a conversation with him. I can't afford this daycare. This is what I can afford for daycare. Or you try to ask and seek there be a change that on your days you pay for the daycare used, and on his day he pays for the daycare used. But if your child is before school, right? So toddlers in actual daycare as
Mhm.
opposed to aftercare, before and aftercare. Obviously you can't have on Monday and Tuesday you're at, Sunshine Daycare, and on Wednesday and Thursday you're at Kindercare, right? That's just
Right.
not practical. Some parents think they can do that. And I'm like, can you stop? Can you stop letting your power struggle?
Yeah.
So the better thing to do, hopefully, would be have a conversation with the parent. Have a conversation with the dad and be like, I really can't afford this. So if you're going to start depending on me to financially put it there, I can't afford this. And if you're shared parents, you both have to agree in where the child goes to school. So if you don't agree, then legally, really, the child can't go there. So if you tell him you can't agree because you can't pay, this is what you could budget for daycare. I mean, that's a conversation you'll have to have. And hopefully, if he chooses still to put the child in that daycare, you reimburse him the portion that you can afford to reimburse.
Right.
And perhaps that's the remedy. Hey, you want to send them to this nicer daycare? You can, but I can only afford this portion. I can reimburse you that portion on a weekly, monthly basis. If not, then we've got to choose another one. That'd be your remedy. If you truly can't come to an agreement, we can file a motion to figure it out.
Motion.
But, if you can't afford the daycare, you could file a motion on your own.
Okay, next one coming in.
Right.
Yeah.
Moving on rather quickly.
Yeah, you can't. You really can. Should you?
Right.
But you can.
Right.
Yeah,
But you can, and you should. Are two very, very different.
Right. And truly, if you really do need it and you don't have the finances to do it, and that's why you're asking this question as opposed to getting a consult, I get it. You can go to the courthouse, you can fill out the paperwork to file a motion, and your argument is pretty well stated, and you can be pretty brief with it, and it might be pretty effective. So you can do it, right?
From a therapeutical / coaching perspective, best idea / practices in preparation of a divorce ? Entering into co-parenting relationships ? Continuing a co-parenting relationship with a different co-parent ? It's just like that's what Jennifer just put up there, right? Just going off of what you guys said.
What from a therapeutic, let's start with the first one. From a therapeutic coaching perspective, what are
I need my
the
glasses
best
for this.
practices in preparing for a divorce? So pre-divorce proceedings.
I think that at that point, that's kind of where figuring out what your core needs are for you as a person, right? I think that's super important because that's really going to help when dealing with the attorneys and everything else and what it is that you're really wanting. That's going to really set a good foundation for you to I need safety for myself, or why do I need the safety? Obviously going into therapy and coaching, or coaching at the same time. I mean, just for emotional balance and support, learning how to, get in touch with your feelings, have these feelings, giving yourself permission for all of those things. Because, a lot of people, and then the guilt, feeling with the guilt, because, oh my gosh, there's so much guilt surrounded with divorce of either, I either failed in the marriage, this person wants to leave me, or I'm leaving. So on either spectrum, it's guilt to have you, staying in situations that you shouldn't be in.
Oh yeah.
So
Guilt.
yeah.
But again, that I've said this a million times, but showing your children that poor example of parenting is more harmful to the children than the hopefully temporary turmoil of the divorce, right? Also, you teach your children the lesson that two good people can, break up, and that doesn't make them, throw away the whole human, right? Right. You still are a good person. You're still a person who's valuable. Just because somebody may reject you, just because you might be going through a breakup, just because your hopes and dreams and goals and things you worked for fell through, right? You're still a good person who could do good things and move forward and have a happy life.
That's right. Yeah, we can still be effective as co-parents, even if we're not effective as husband and wife.
Exactly. All right, what was the?
I'll put it back up. Put it back up. And
there were 3 questions, Patricio.
Right.
There we go.
only answered one.
Okay, there you go.
Entering a co-parenting relationship, so moving away from the relationship into co-parenting. What do you think is one of the biggest takeaways? I'll kind of give this a little more focus. What do you think one of the biggest takeaways, or the top thing that they should remember in being a co-parent?
To put the child first, away from your needs. Like, I think that what's the best outcome for our child, and not using the child as a pawn. So aside from what you think, aside from what I think, aside from all the feelings that are going on, because your feelings are hurt, my feelings are hurt. And I'm saying this because I had to go into co-parenting with my ex-husband. Just say, okay, I accept you for who you are for certain things, but at the end of the day, we need to figure out what the best solution for this is for little Timmy.
And something that comes across my desk, if you will, right, via conversation or email, is I'm trying to, but I'm being a good co-parent, and they're not being a good co-parent. What would be your, from the emotional therapeutic side?
I would tell you to get off the expectation. Right.
Yeah.
There's such an attachment and expectation of what you think that person should do, and that person should say, and how they should behave. And then, of course, holding the moralistic judgment over that person. And sometimes, even saying that in front of the children. So just kind of being mindful of that.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of times I like my response to that to be, you're not entitled to expectations on their behavior anymore. Right. You never really were. Right. You're not entitled to expect anything from anyone.
Right.
You're entitled exclusively to your behavior and the control of your behavior.
That's right.
So
completely off topic. I'm sorry to ask you this, Erin, for tonight. Is it formal or semi-formal?
Why are you asking me in the middle of this?
I just got a message that I need to respond on this one, and I have no idea.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's not my wedding.
Sorry.
I don't know either.
Sorry about that.
I don't have an answer for this one.
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Okay, me either.
I'd have to look.
Yeah, I don't even know either. My bad. Okay, so going back to the last one, or that was the final one?
Yeah, no. Continuing a co-parenting relationship with a difficult co-parent.
I use the example of stop expecting a house cat from a lion.
Yeah.
I mean, you can bring that lion in as a cub, right? You can, for all intent and purposes, give it all of the little kitty kibble or whatever it is. But once that lion grows up and is a lion, stop treating it like a house cat and stop expecting it to be a house cat, because it's not going to be a house. And nor is it going to behave that way, especially if you don't feed it.
Yeah, they're gonna eat the kids. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So again, that kind of goes back to the expectation of the person that you're dealing with. Like, know your person, know, and was it Maya Angelou that said, once a person shows you who they are, you should believe them.
Yeah.
My add-on to that is treat them accordingly.
Right.
Because so this is who you've been, this is who you are, this is how, I've seen. I'm going to treat you accordingly, according to that, and not expect you to behave how I want you to behave or how I think you should behave in this part of it now, because I'm being the good co-parent, but look at you, you're not showing up when you're supposed to.
Right.
Okay, well, I just can't fight about you showing up or not showing up.
Well,
you didn't show up, I have to show up, and I got to go get the child now.
Right. You don't have control over
Yeah.
it, right? It's just, you don't. So
Yeah.
you a lot of what I think some of my clients could use, and people in general, is the ability to have some coping mechanisms with dealing with a person like that, right? Because you're gonna deal with narcissists, right? You're gonna have to co-parent with them, right? And sometimes our courts are not sympathetic, and some judges are. We really do have a lot of really great judges who really do their best to be sympathetic and kind on these matters. But the truth of the matter is they can't care about that, right? Ultimately, their goal is, what's the best interest of these children, and how do I get you guys to resolution? What's the best I can do? The best I can do with 1 hour's worth of information based on your whole life.
Right.
So I try to remind them on that front. Also, that even narcissists have rights to their children, right? Even narcissists are still parents. I understand you don't want to co-parent with them, but you don't have a choice. So, learning some coping mechanisms, some ways where you can, let go and just find acceptance with whatever's going on over there. It's not your circus anymore. It gets to be over there.
Yeah. I kind of I see it also from they've dealt with a narcissist, right? They've dealt with the gaslighting, so they're just going into like mama bear mode, right? Of wanting to protect their child from that.
Yeah.
So,
and I found that there are times where I'm representing the party, maybe that's a narcissist, and maybe not a narcissist in a way that it seems like their true desire is to hurt people, but where they can't see anyone's needs other than their own, right? And they always want to peg the other one as a narcissist. So, be wary that any judge with some, training in therapy or having some psychological understanding knows that a narcissist will do exactly that and deflect and try to make you look like the narcissist. That's a hurdle to get over. And when that starts happening, that level of mudslinging, right? The court just goes, both of you are at fault. Both of you must be the problem, right? Because they don't know another way to read it out. It isn't, and that's a part of the divorce. They're like, no, not he's responsible, you're responsible, right? You're both responsible,
right?
And we're just gonna figure this out.
Those are all the questions for today. Now, as we're wrapping up, we do a segment called Erin Reacts, where I show a video or I show a picture or I read a story and we have Erin react. But on this week's episode of this week for Erin Reacts, I want to hear both you guys' take on this real quick. Let me pull up the video. Well, not the video, the picture, because this has been in the news all day, every day. And if you guys turn around, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about this.
Oh, I was just going to say we should talk about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial.
Got you.
Have you watched any of it?
Yeah, I watched a little bit. Yeah, I've seen a little bit of his testimony the other day. Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, yes, men can be victims of domestic violence too, and like part of what you were saying is that a narcissist will deflect, but if you're in a narcissistic relationship and you are a strong person, genuinely, a lot of times what they will do is that they will try to beat the narcissist at their game, and so they will try to outsmart them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have to think ahead of you. So then what what happens? You start having narcissistic tendencies
Yeah.
just because you're in survival mode, and that's all you know. So
Right,
I mean, for me, I mean, I'm looking at this, and I'm kind of also looking at it like with the Will Smith thing. It's like there's so much.
Hey, keep the name out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Sorry. Another situation that you look at it and you're like, well, there's a lot of mental health also on the men's part, and domestic violence that the men are experiencing that's not so much showcased, and also needs to be acknowledged and respected, because men go through it too, the same way that we do.
Right.
Initially
when she accused Johnny. And again, I don't know him, right?
Yeah.
Shocking, right? He's not my friend.
I mean, you said Johnny as if y'all.
He's my buddy.
They're on first name basis.
I was really shocked that could have been him, and I was like, he's got to be a hell of a good actor to have hidden it for this long.
Sure.
Have this many very public relationships. Right. With strong women, right?
Yeah.
He has a history of like relationships with very strong women.
Yeah.
And I was like, a person with that kind of like abuse and controlling is going to steer away. Right. And is going to steer away from strong women, right? Those women can't be controlled, right? That one, I can't, right? Or, they don't find it attractive. So it was shocking to me. And then when it flipped and we learned the opposite was true, I was like, son of a bitch.
Right. I was like, that makes so much sense.
I was like, this makes sense.
Yeah. I agree with you. I felt the same way, because I was like, I've been following him since 21 Jump Street.
Oh my God, since the 80s.
Right.
Come on.
And then you've never heard anything. There's never been any issues. Remembering the birth of his daughter and the relationship that he had with his ex, nothing ever. There was never any of that. And now all of a sudden he's like this maniac, like I question that. Yeah,
I was like, no. And when I heard it, I was like, not Johnny Depp.
Right. Yeah.
Do not take this away from
me. Yeah. Not my Jack Sparrow. Don't do that.
You can't have him, right?
Right.
And then when I heard it like flipped around, I was like, wait, great on him to kind of be a strong male, a talented male, a well-known person, to shed some light on women having domestic violence tendencies or being a narcissist that would put it out there, right? She used the fact that she's a woman and that it would have been believable, because none of us could be like, there's definitely no way. Like, we didn't want to believe it, but we're like, crap, everyone.
Right.
They're all bad.
Right. Is there no one left?
Yeah, are we not safe anymore? So, I think part of this case now, from a legal perspective, even if he doesn't actually succeed, he's getting his goal, right? For him, he really needed to go to court and fight this battle. He really needed to not sit down and take it. And I understand that maybe from a psychological standpoint, you don't need that. But I get in his scenario, right? He's a very public figure and he needed to stand up against this. Also, he's making a stand for men who are domestic violence victims. And we can't ignore them or dismiss them.
Right. But I do think that from a psychological standpoint that it needed to get done, right? Because this is part of the healing. This is part of the process of, unwrapping and going through it, not just sitting back and saying, well, it was just something that happens.
Right. It's just over. I'll forget about it. I need to work on me.
Pay this off and everything will be all right. No, in order to go through the healing, you need to feel that pain and like you said, shed light on the domestic violence from a man's standpoint, because that goes so it's so unnoticed and flies under the radar more than you even think.
Even when it makes it to a courtroom, the judges aren't usually as sympathetic about it, so that can be a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
It's been a crazy case, and earlier I think it was earlier today where like they played the audio of her admitting like to hitting him.
Yeah.
And this is, I felt the same way when the story first broke out about Johnny being accused of this. It's just like, damn it, he seems such a cool dude.
Yeah.
Damn it, Jack.
Right.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then like the flip, it's like
I thought about like, what's eating Gilbert Grape? Did, you know? And I was like, that guy who could play that role can't abuse people.
There's no way. There's no way.
Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah, come on.
No,
No.
I'm not doing that. No. Yeah, sorry, I can't sign off on that one.
The and then the whole flip was like, holy crap, I hate to say that well, first of all, the whole situation sucks that it happened to Johnny, but the one thing that the positive from this, it's bringing light to the fact that you want equality. Okay, it's going to have to go both ways.
Yeah.
We all fight for domestic violence victims, but it's not always women.
Also, for shame, Amber Heard.
For shame.
For shame.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you know what you're doing now that he had to prove that this didn't happen and he had to prove that she's the abuser? You are going to undermine women who legitimately come forward with these claims
Yeah.
because we have to create a precedent of a legal way to fight them.
Yeah.
So a narcissist male who actually beat you up now has a defense.
Right.
So when you lie about it, you undermine legitimate victims because now this courthouse, right? These judges are like, it could happen.
Yep.
You give legitimacy to, to like the other side of the story, right? And it really starts to make it just a little bit harder for when a woman does come forward, just believe them, right? And that's what there's a lot out there of people go, when women say they were abused, believe them.
But
Unless
that's
you're Amber
hard.
Heard.
Right. But even that's hard because when it happened to me, it was like, well, did he hit you? Do you have the bruises? Like you have to go through all of these. Now you just made it even harder.
Yeah.
So it's not like
Right.
they just, you can just pick up, hey, well, he beat me up or hey, this happened. It was like, well, did it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, now you're making it even harder.
You create the doubt, right? So thanks on
Right.
behalf of,
Yeah.
and poor Johnny, right? Because he probably would have ended the relationship and moved forward. Not that that's the right thing to do. He should have come forward and he should have an open forum to come forward, right? When he's ready, right? And it does have to be on his terms.
Right.
But at this point, he was backed into this corner.
Yeah.
So, he's going to take her down and he had to. He had no choice.
Jenny Benny puts the comment, this is why we teach our kids about crying wolf. Her parents didn't teach her clearly.
Well, she's got a lot going on,
Yeah.
right? I agree. Her parents did not teach her, and whatever she has going on is very
there's so much more to unpack there than that's just part of that. Yeah.
So that wraps it up for Erin Reacts. And as we are heading out, I am about to Deyna, I want you to plug. Go ahead and plug. Do
Yeah, do your elevator speech.
Do your
My
elevator
elevator
speech.
speech. So Deyna Gomez with Sage and Harmony Holistic Coaching. You can reach us at www.snhcoaching.com. Our Facebook page is SNH Coaching, as well as Breaking Through Anxiety, which is our private Facebook group. So feel free to reach out.
Yeah, and I'm just scrolling through your website right here. Great work on the website. It's freaking beautiful. And Erin, your final thoughts as we head out.
Don't fuck with Johnny Depp.
Right?
We're all rallying behind him.
Yeah. I feel like we should all just kind of show up and just
Yeah.
like go to the courthouse
And sit on the
just like,
Johnny Depp side.
Yeah.
Squeeze in and make sure that side is
Free
empty.
Johnny.
Yeah. Well, from Amber Heard.
Right.
What just happened here?
Uh-oh.
Oh, Patricio, definitely wear a bunny costume. Oh, shit. God, I can't believe I just read that out loud. All right. Good night, everybody.